Welcome back to another episode of the Pax What She Said podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Maggie Loney, joined as always by Perry Goldstein. Early apologies to Malik Heath, who is going to be the graphic on the Pax What She Said YouTube this week. And something bigger happened right before we were about to record. Perry, did any breaking news take place 10 minutes before we decided to jump on and record the 53-man roster breakdown?
Episode? Is this just another show? I don't think this is just another show. Yes, about 45 minutes ago, we got the news that the Packers have indeed traded for Micah Parsons with the Cowboys. They're giving him a blockbuster deal. He's now the highest paid non-quarterback ever in the history of the NFL. He's getting a 4-year, $188 million extension. And the Packers traded 2 first-round picks and a 1 Kenny Clark, which we will have a second for Kenny in a bit, for Micah freaking Parsons. And I was asked last night, where on a scale of 1 to 10 was I on this actually happening? Because we've seen the rumors circulating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said
we talked about him last week with Andrew.
Literally. I said a 3 because it's the rumors are there for a reason, but to me, I could not fathom the Packers giving up as much as the Cowboys would ask for. I'm so glad I was wrong, because 2 firsts and a Kenny, you do that all day, every day. That is an easy yes. Micah is in the prime of his career. Second contract, 26 years old, an absolutely generational talent, might be in the makings of a Hall of Fame type career. And the Packers are in win now mode. The Packers are officially, without a doubt, no contest Super Bowl contenders with him on the team.
Absolutely. One of my friends asked me, she was like, explain this to me like I'm 5. What does trading for 1 player do in the grand scheme of things on an NFL roster? There's 11 players on defense. And I was like, correct. But when one of those players is Micah Parsons, it makes everything a hell of a lot easier for everybody else. And I think that goes into kind of what we talked about last week with Andrew. It was depending on what you're giving up. And I think this is a good way to talk about Kenny Clark here, who probably is younger than Micah Parsons, really. So the Cowboys are probably benefiting from that because he is the ageless wonder. But we said, if you're giving up Rashawn Gary, if you're giving up LVN, which you would still make those trades in a heartbeat for Micah Parsons, but your room is becoming thin. I cannot wait to see what Rashawn Gary looks like with a guy like Micah Parsons, who can eat up a lot of those double teams that Rashawn was having to deal with last season.
Yeah. I mean, I tweeted out, is Rashawn Gary going to have 15 sacks next to Micah Parsons this season? My column, which obviously when you put my column is in jest, but I'm serious. The fact that someone like Parsons is on the line means that all of the attention is going to go to him, rightfully so. He deserves it, but it also leaves room for everyone else to do their job and get to the quarterback. And I think Rashawn Gary has needed this. I mean, everybody needs a Micah Parsons on their line, but I mean in a more formidable partner, because Rashawn has the talent. He's just had a really hard time when he's the one, which they drafted him to be the one. And so it's unfortunate we haven't seen him get there yet. But I think this is just going to open up everything, and not just for Rashawn, but hopefully for LVN, hopefully for a guy like Devontae Wyatt, who's shown some really nice progress. I mean, I cannot wait to see what they do with Edge Cooper. And for all the talk about, the cornerback room being a little bit probably the weaker link on this defensive side, what's the best way to protect not great cornerback room? It's an amazing pass rush. You can't even get the ball out. It's just he just changes everything about that side of the ball.
Yeah. And immediately. And, I think that was one of the conversations we were going to have on this initial 53-man roster was what are the surprises to you? Where were the players that were maybe sacrificed in depth for one spot, for another spot? And I think everybody was initially surprised to see so many bodies in the defensive line room. And I'm not saying they did this in preparation for Kenny Clark, right? But I think there may have been a little bit of thought like, hey, if this does come to fruition, we need to have guys that we're comfortable with, and we don't
Yeah.
want to subject them to, not saying Stackhouse or Brinson we're going to go get snatched up off the waiver wire, since no Packers did this season. But the point stands, right? They are building up front. We saw them do it in the draft by taking Sorrell and Oliver, and
Mhm.
it's a focal point. So we feel really good about pieces of the secondary, but I absolutely agree with you that this just changes the trajectory of everything for this defense. And I think this is without a doubt a career year for Rashawn Gary and
Oh,
Lucas
for sure.
Van Ness. But we already
How
kind of thought it would be.
how crazy for Jeff Halfley that he was just coaching, like, no hate, but like BC football. And now he's like defensive coordinating some of the best players to exist at this current moment. Like, I would love to be a fly on the wall when he found out that he was getting Micah Parsons on his roster, because it's just the kind of player that you can do whatever you want. You can call up whatever you want. He is the ace up your sleeve. He is the go-to. He is the guy that you know is going to wreck everything at a moment's notice. It's just like, you can't ask for more. I want to get your thoughts on the deal itself, because my thought process when I was pessimistic about it was, I feel like Jerry is going to just ask for the world, and it's going to take a team that's willing to give him the world. But I don't think this deal is unreasonable. If anything, I think the Packers won this trade.
Yes.
So I'm so curious, like, what the Cowboys were thinking, if they were thinking at all.
I and I don't want to speculate ever, but a lot of the things that, there was conversation about whether or not Micah Parsons actually had a back injury, right? And a lot of those things typically crop up when you're looking at negotiating a contract, and why else would you not be practicing? And
Yeah.
maybe he does have back soreness. The MRI I read came back clean, whatever that means for him, like, whether or not his back is actually injured. But if there was any doubt that he didn't want to play in Dallas anymore, I think the Cowboys had to get what they could. And two first round picks is good, but you're talking about a team now that could be in the Super Bowl conversation. So this is two first round picks that you're hoping, if you're the Packers,
Right.
are
Are in
like
the 30s.
28th,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
you're at least like the mid to late 20s. And the value there with an aging Kenny Clark, who had one of his worst seasons and did play through injury in Green Bay and, gave everything he had. You can tell the Cowboys don't feel like they're in win now mode in their
Right.
division
Right.
by doing this.
Right. And I think too, like, they know they've had a lot of big contracts with Dak, with CD. And at some point you have to wonder if the money is there. Like, don't forget, I mean, let's not forget, like, the Packers just gave this guy a ginormous contract.
And 136 mil guaranteed. Like, most of that
Guaranteed.
is in
Yeah.
guarantees.
And now, to be fair, the Packers have actually, since the Aaron Rodgers trade, they ate that dead cap in 1 year, and they've set themselves up to be in a really, really good place financially. This will obviously eat into it. But, like, I mean, I think at some point you figure out the numbers to give Micah Parsons whatever he wants. The Cowboys just didn't think that they could figure out the numbers, maybe. But to me, that's just like bad GMing, because you don't get rid of a player of this caliber.
Yeah. And I think it just, when there's smoke, there's not always fire. But Jerry Jones had to come out and say, like, I drafted an offer that I thought was serviceable. You've got Michael Irvin on TV talking about, like, this is never going to happen. And then, like, 5 minutes later, this broke. So I think it was something that the Packers were very clearly working towards for a long time. And they probably have had this offer on the table or close to it, waiting to hear when the Cowboys were kind of firing away and willing to listen to trades, because you don't all of a sudden hear now all of a sudden the Cowboys are considering a trade, and then like an hour later the trade happens. Like, the Packers have
Right.
been sitting on this and ready for this for a long time.
Right. Well, I read a more full article about to that point, the timeline. And it seems like over the last 4 or 5 days, this is like really matriculated, and then it actually got finalized about 2 days ago. So all the leaks that we've been hearing in the last 48 hours actually very much had some truth to it. It's just so unbelievable that you question the validity of them, because this is Blockbuster. But they did have something going, I think probably for the last like week or so.
I would also really, really be interested to find out if there were other teams involved in the conversation and what those offers looked like, because we obviously know after the fact with the Khalil Mack trade that the Packers were in on that one and they thought the Bears picks would be higher. So I'm curious if there were any teams that tried to get on it, and because I know the Packers likely had to give them the biggest and best offer because it's the Packers, but for Jerry Jones to have to swallow his pride and trade Micah to Green Bay, I think the only worst trade would have been interdivision, and I don't think he would have been able to do that. So really curious if there were any other teams involved and what they looked like, because Jerry, like you said last week, needs to feel like he's fleecing somebody. And I think that the Packers, he didn't.
The only two teams I've seen since this has come out that have said we were also in talks were the Ravens and the Cardinals. Which I think is very interesting. Apparently the Ravens just didn't have like the space, like money wise, to give Parsons his deal. I haven't heard anything about the Cardinals other than that was a name involved in the mix. I do wonder, like, I know that there was a lot of jokes about this, but like Parsons does have the same agent as Jordan Love. They've worked out together in the off season. They've been on, he's been on Micah's podcast. Like there's a relationship there. And I do wonder, especially, I mean, less so the relationship, because I think guys are friends across the league, but like the David Mulugeta of it all, if that really had any impact.
Yeah. And I mean, I think like it certainly is appealing if you're Micah Parsons to go to a place like Green Bay. Sure. And for that kind of money, I'm sure he would have gone just about anywhere, but I do think that does factor in. And, I know he joked on that podcast that he was a cowboy for life, but I think that some players say things because of the PR of it all, right? Like he can't go out and say, I would love to play for this team next, but the intrigue is there. And the Packers will see the Cowboys week 4, Sunday Night Football, kicking things off early in the season. And of course it has to be in prime time. So Sunday Night Football, week 4.
Was planning on going to that game. No way I can afford it now. Like literally was planning a whole weekend to go down to Dallas. I had something else to say. My brain is just like so scrambled with this. Crazy.
Let's just run through his stats really quick and talk about like the defensive front that he's joining. So obviously he's been a Pro Bowler in all 4 of his seasons. Right. He has over 12 sacks in all of his first 4 seasons. He's a multi-time All-Pro, Defensive Player of the Year. He didn't finish. Yeah, no, he did. Right. He's won a DPOI.
He has. I just saw his stats actually, but yes, he has.
And I agree with you that like what this does for a guy like Edge Cooper, I think is really fascinating.
Oh no, he hasn't. Sorry.
It must have just been the number of votes he got.
Yeah, he was runner-up in 2021 and 2022 and 3rd in 2023.
Still. But yeah, I mean, like you're looking at, he's joining Rashawn Gary, he's joining LVM. We talk about what that means from the impact of the edge room. You talk about guys like Quay Walker and Edge Cooper getting to play a little bit more freely, especially if you can get Quay downhill. Like those things make a difference. We talk about this like idea of a roaming nose that we saw guys like Zadarius Smith fill in the past. I think Micah Parsons absolutely can rush from inside at like that kind of standing nose. That would be incredible. Like he has the ability to do it all, and there aren't many guys in the NFL that can do it all. Maybe we talk about Kenny's departure really quickly and how you think, if at all, that impacts this front with the addition of Micah.
My only thought when I saw that was like, I don't think the Packers, unless they, because you tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think Devontae Wyatt is one, like have a true nose tackle. They might have been like training someone up to be one, but that's like my only thought. I mean, also like Kenny's such an anchor, and I know that he had a tougher season last year, but I never had a doubt that he was going to bounce back from it. The thing about Kenny though is that he's not like a true edge rusher. I think he can push the pocket and create like really fantastic interior pressure, and in that sense he gets to the quarterback, but he's much better against the run. And he's not going to like line up on the edge. Like you're not going to line Kenny up on the edge and kind of move him around, which makes him, he has always been incredible at what he's been at, what his role is, but he's not necessarily as versatile. I'm sad to see a player go that I actually genuinely thought would retire a Packer. I think that's like really, really rare these days. And the Cowboys are getting like just an absolute like 100 stand-up guy, like a leadership presence certainly. But it's hard for me to feel like really a type of way with Kenny kind of at the back end of his career. Right.
And I mean, it's kind of been the overarching theme of this Packers front office, regardless of who's at the helm, right? Ted Thompson, Brian Gutekunst, like they would rather always move on from a player 1 year too early than 1 year too late. And if last year was the start of Kenny's decline in production, you're still getting a very talented football player, but I think the Packers are willing to give up what he can bring to the table for a player, of course, like Micah Parsons, who you just swing for the fences on. And the supporting cast around him is really, really stout as well. And I know, you're not replacing a first round pick in Kenny Clark with a guy like Nazir Stackhouse, right? Like an undrafted free agent is not going to come in and fill that hole. Literally, yes, figuratively, no. But there's room to work when you have all of these different pieces. And I think the front is going to be multiple. And I'm really excited to see what Jeff Hafley does with a lot of these guys, because
I agree.
he can put most of them in multiple places. And also makes, not that the Packers are planning for this like months in advance, but Colby Wooden put on a ton of weight and has been taking some looks at nose tackle. So it certainly feels like there's been preparation for this D-line with or without Kenny in the picture.
Yeah. Yeah. It's real. I mean, I feel bad because he's probably not going to get his flowers as much as he deserves to have gotten his flowers. Like he's been a fantastic, fantastic player for the Packers for his entire career. He's also, I saw on Twitter today, the last Ted Thompson draft pick ever. So it's like on the team. Sorry, not ever, like in the league. So it's officially, I mean, as much as it's felt like that for a number of years, it is now officially Goot's roster. Yeah.
And look what he's done with it, right? Like Ted made big swings and he brought the Packers a Super Bowl. And I don't think it's hyperbole to say that this plants the Packers squarely in the conversation as not just a Super Bowl contender, but like a front runner. Your pass rush going into the season was a question mark, right? And the cornerback room still is, but you can do a lot more with less when you have this type of pass rush to lean on. And I think the Packers become front runners in the NFC North. And I think, they're on par with a team like the Eagles.
Yeah. They just actually jumped. If you're a betting man like myself, they just jumped the Lions as the favorite to win the NFC North, plus 165. The Lions are plus 190. So like if nothing else tells you like how much Micah Parsons moves the needle, they also went from a 9.5 win line to a 10.5 win line. Like he moved them an entire win up in Vegas's eyes. So like this guy is just, not that I look at things in those terms, but I think they're really interesting like benchmarks to see. Crazy. And like it's a week before the season. I mean, when was the last time something like this happened? A week before the season starts. The Cowboys play in 7 days against the Eagles in the season opener. And they just lost their best their best player.
Their best player. Yeah, like no debate, their best player. And that's why it just feels so surreal that it happened, because it just feels like Jerry, like you pay Dak all this money, you pay CD all this money, you have pieces here, and you
Right.
get close. Like, they obviously made the playoffs last season, and then the Packers came to town, and it just feels like you're kind of feels like you're phoning it in, honestly.
Right.
And if Micah wasn't going to play, he wasn't going to play there, right? Like, there's only so much you can do. That said, when it's a player of his caliber, I think you try a little bit harder. Like,
Yeah.
there's a little more hustle.
Oh my God. Well, this is going to be so fun.
Yeah.
I am speechless. I cannot wait. I was already excited for the season. I cannot wait. Any
Can't
other
wait.
thoughts?
No, I just can't wait to look around the league the rest of the, the coming days and see like the reactions. And, a lot of our friends, of course, have podcasts, and
Right.
Mina Kimes and people we really admire. Like, I just can't wait to see the takes that come from this, and hear the discussion about it, because it is incredible. Right. And dreams do come true, kids.
Dreams do come true. It can happen for you.
That is all the time that we have for today's show. We'll be back next week with a very special guest. You might know them, to talk about week 1, because the football season is officially here. And what better way to kick it off than with a trade for one of the best players in the NFL? Packers Lions on deck next week. We'll be here to talk about it. Cannot wait. I'm sure we'll have more Micah Parsons takes for you then, but wanted to get something out to you all in the meantime. We'll talk about the 53 as it evolves, because this is kind of bigger than anything that's ever going to happen again for this current initial 53-man roster. So thank you, as always, for listening to the show. You know where to find us: YouTube, social media, Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, at Perri_Goldstein, me at Maggie J. Loney. Thank you, as always, for listening. Enjoy this one. It feels really good.
Yeah.
Go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.